Hey everybody, welcome to The Warp. I'm Jack Rita, and in this video I'm going to be talking about some of the unpublished aliens that would have been part of Cosmic Universe, the 8th expansion for Cosmic Encounter. So I'm in Tabletop Simulator where we were playtesting these aliens, and I'm going to be showing you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 new aliens, and it's actually a new type of alien, something I call a deck alien. And that is because these all come with their own sets of cards. So, similar to an Essence alien, which has its own Essence cards, but the difference here is that with the deck aliens, the cards themselves belong to certain decks, and once they're in that deck or in somebody's hand, they're indistinguishable from other cards. So they start with these cards, but unlike Essence Aliens, where the Essence cards are very clearly Essence cards, these behave a little bit differently. They all have temporary art, so this is not, they never got to the art stage with this expansion. So let's dive in, and we're going to start with an alien here called Negotiator. And so it's going to start with a bunch of special negotiates, which we'll take a look at here in just a second. As you can see, there's a little icon down there in the bottom right corner that, similar to how the Essence aliens had that little alien head, these have a sort of cosmic deck motif that is very it's here on the cosmic deck itself. Whoops. So if we take a look at that, it's that little star swipe motif. That's what that icon is. So the negotiator, and I guess I should point out that they all have, like very few of these are going to have, if any, are going to have any game setup text, and that is because deck aliens should be allowed to join a game in progress, which is kind of the criteria for differentiating between game setup aliens and other aliens. Is that if you're getting an alien mid game, you can't have one with game setup text because game setup has already happened, and so we didn't want that to be the case. So there's similar to how the Essence alien has little blurbs in the rule book for how do things work. The same is true here. So they're all going to start with these cards on their sheet, and so that part can be left off of the alien sheet. So Negotiator power to parlay. So whenever no negotiate cards are revealed in an encounter, you may use your power to give one of the main players a negotiate card from this sheet. Anytime a deal is made between any two players, you gain a reward. So it doesn't matter whether they're using one of your negotiates or not. It's just anytime a deal is made between any two players, including you. And then you may place any negotiate cards in your hand onto the sheet at any time. So they will be regular negotiates in here as well. So this, when negotiator in the game, you are very likely going to have a lot more deals going on. And one reward, that's a nice little perk. It's not abusive. And of course, they can only give away these. Now, there's going to be more incentives. So let's take a look at some of these cards. So first of all, we have Negotiate Sympathizer. So if it's opposed by an attack 9 or higher, it loses. Okay, but if it's opposed by a Negotiate 8 or less, players have 1 minute to make a deal. So this is going to be, if you play a low attack card and your opponent has revealed this, or I guess if your opponent has revealed like an attack 8 or an attack 6 and you reveal this, you actually get yourself into a deal situation. So I love that. So this means that a deal is more likely to happen, which is great for Negotiator. He loves that. So negotiate excessive force. So this is similar. If it's opposed by a 19 or lower, it loses normally. But if it's opposed by a 20 or higher, you make a deal. So this is a nice little flip side to the Sympathizer. So negotiate stalemate. Opposed by any attack, you lose, but you get compensation. Opposed by negotiate, or if your opponent reveals an attack card equal to one in your hand, discard it. And then you have 1 minute to make a deal. So that is gives you a little kind of a way out, especially if you've got one of those common attack cards. So if they play an attack 8 and you have an attack 8, you can ditch it to get into a deal situation. So sanctions. If it's opposed by an attack, you lose by compensation, and you may allow all other players to give any cards from their hand to your opponent unless they agree to a deal situation for you. So that's what it is. I might have to reword that a little bit. Again, we were in the playtesting process when we knew that we learned that this was not going to be a published expansion. And then it's opposed by a negotiator. It's a normal thing. So here you're like, all right, you're going to win your opponent. You're telling your opponent, all right, you're going to win this, and I'll get compensation unless you agree to a deal situation. Otherwise, everybody else can give you their garbage. And and maybe you don't care about that. You're like, that's fine. But it's a nice little just twist on things. Negotiate incentives. If it's opposed by an attack, it's a normal but up to 2 colonies can be gained in a deal if your opponent agrees to a deal situation. So here, if they have revealed an attack, they're like, oh, I played the attack 10 and I'm gonna just win. Or they can get into a deal situation and get 2 colonies, and then you can get 2 colonies. So that's bananas. I love that. So it's another negotiator. Now we have 2 that allow that. And then fallout. Opposed by an attack, you can lose and get compensation. Your opponent must remove the same number of ships you will lose in this encounter from the game unless you both enter a deal situation. So all these, they'll have some other ways that deal situations can occur. All right, moving on to armor. So armor is an alien that had a different version, similar but not quite the same, back when Dominion was being designed, and it was close. It was close to the cutoff of aliens. If we hadn't had to also include previously published aliens, if it had been a totally fan design one, armor would have been in. But I think this is a better version of armor, so because it wasn't a deck alien before, so it's got 7 special reinforcements. So power to forge. As a main player or ally, you may use this power once per encounter to send 2 of your ships on a colony to the warp, and then either play a reinforcement from this sheet or take a reinforcement played by another player, canceling it and placing it on this sheet. After any encounter where you are not a main player or ally and in which no reinforcements were played by any player, you must give any other player one of the reinforcements from this sheet. Then return one of your ships in the warp to one of your colonies. So a nice little kind of a back and forth economy there with your ships and the reinforcements. But it means that reinforcements are going to be in the game and being played a lot more frequently. So, and these are special, the reinforcements. So we have this +3. It's a melee. So adds to either side's total or to amount of rewards or compensation. So this is a nice little new twist for these. Let's move that out of the way. Then we've got small arms, add to either side, or again, rewards or compensation. And they don't all do that. But here we have explosives, just +7. Play after encounter cards are revealed. So that's normal, but it's just boom, a 7. That's a pretty big one. Artillery. No rewards or compensation is collected. So this is kind of like a little nod to the artillery strike in Dune. If people know that card, they'll understand a little bit of what we're talking about there. Here we have biological +2/. Add to either side's total. Play after encounter cards. Adds 2 per player involved in the encounter. So that's better than a +2 because it's going to be at least a +4. Here we have, this is another biological. I might have meant to have a different name. But anyway, this is +1 per card in your hand. So that's nice. And then we have nuclear, +12. Again, no rewards or compensation. So boom. I mean, you've got this. You can play this. So the armor can play these cards at a cost or can give people cards. And you can, again, what I like about this is you've got this sort of soft advantage of maybe you get into a deal situation and you say, next time there's a deal, I'm going to give you one of these cards. I'll give you, small arms, or I'll give you this biological or something like that. So I like armor. I like reinforcements, and there are not very many aliens that play around with the reinforcements. And so you've got a nice little extra thing going on here. All right, moving over here, we have Zip. So Zip has the power to zip, zap, and zop, and that is a reference to a warm-up for improv. So people probably know that I did and have done and still do a lot of improv, and I always loved the Cosmic Zap. I wanted to have a cosmic zip and a cosmic zop, and as you can see, we're going to get those. But this is a little bit different. So at the start of a player's turn, you may give that player an artifact from the sheet, even yourself. So at the start of a player's turn, you can give yourself one of these. Anytime a player gives you an artifact, and that'll come clear here in a second, you may use this power to send 3 of your ships from colonies to the warp to cancel the effects of the artifact and place it on this sheet. So that's going to be important. You have a way to basically zap something that's going to happen. Additionally, whenever you would retrieve a ship from the warp, you may use this power to instead search the discard pile for one of your special artifacts, and if you find any, add one to the sheet. So there are 4 special artifacts here. So we've got Cosmic Zip, Cosmic Card Zip, Cosmic Zip, Cosmic Zop, and another Cosmic Zap. But this is special, so as you can see, it has a little bit of a flare element on there, and it works very much like it. So if you are not the Zip, you use the yellow one. If you are the Zip, you use the blue one. So play this card in front of another player to preemptively zap the next artifact or flare they attempt to play. Then give the card to the Zip at the end of the encounter. And so play this card in front of another player to preemptively zap the next artifact or flare that they attempt to play, discarding it. So it's a preemptive. With the zip is faster than the zap, so it's happening before it actually happens. And again, we're going to play around with the wording a little bit here because we want the. I would say I would have this give this card to the Zip when they play the card. I'll play around with that a little bit because I want it to tie into this a little bit more. And we'll take a look at the Cosmic Zip. It's the same way, but you are preemptively zapping an alien. And then, they're zapped right then. So that one makes a little bit sense. This card Zip was a late addition just for we want to have a little more variety. So I'm going to play around with the wording on that because I'm still going to end up using this. I'll end up making these cards myself. And I already have this in TTS. But yes, the Cosmic Zip is for zapping their alien. We have just a Cosmic Zap an alien just as this power is being used. And then you're giving it. So you're giving the card to the Zip, and they can say, I'm going to cancel that. And so if they're on the opposing side and, somebody has had this card, and then they have the Cosmic Zap, you're zapping the entire counter. Cards played are discarded and ships returned to colonies. Play passes, and the encounter counts as a loss for both sides. So that's a big deal, and a zop is just the ultimate. So this is the one that has been the most in flux, and part of it was just I was working with a very specific card count number, so that's why I was limiting it to 4 cards. We might open that up a little bit more, but we'll see how it is. Certainly weigh in with your thoughts on there. Let's move on to Treasure. So you have the power of Treasure. As a winning main player or ally, during resolution, you may use this power to give any or all of your allies a card each from this sheet. Or as a main player, you may give one to your opponent as part of a deal, and you may show cards on the sheet to any players at any time. So you're giving away these treasures. There's 6 of them. Why would you want to do that? Well, whenever another player plays one of your treasure cards, instead of discarding it, add it to the sheet, and you gain a foreign colony anywhere each time a treasure card is returned to the sheet when there were no treasure cards on it. So the idea is you want to get rid of these as fast as you can, and then you're just waiting for somebody to play one. And then everyone's going to try to play all of them at once, but you might be able to get rid of some of the other ones before they can. So what do we have in the treasure trove? Well, we have this Rift 1. That's a card that showed up in Cosmic Dominion. So you play at the start of your encounter to establish a colony on any planet with no colonies. Or if another player takes this card from you, say for compensation, they have to abandon a colony of their choice. So there is a nice Rift. Here you've got a kicker times 3. And so just a standard kicker. And it looks like a regular card. Another kicker times 2. That's a fun one. Here we have a bolster zap. Cancels reinforcement or kicker. So this is, I think, an idea I lifted from Bill Martinson. Right? He had something like this. I don't know if it was called bolster zap, but that was the idea. So yeah, somebody plays a reinforcement or a kicker, say one of the kickers that just happened. You get to target that. We know that there's going to be kickers in the game because of that. So it's a nice little thing. Here we have Mobius Web. Free ships. Play at the start of any player's regroup to free all ships from the warp. Freed ships must return to foreign colonies, otherwise they remain in the warp. So that's the difference. They're just going to foreign colonies. So that's an interesting here. We got a space junk, so take top discard. That player takes the top of the discard or reward deck pile and adds it to their hand. And so there you have it. So useful. Everyone was, there was a lot of people suggesting we have another space junk in Cosmic Dominion. But we were like, no, I'm not going to do that. And we weren't going to have, but this I think is a good place for it. And just a nice little twist on Mobius tubes. Bolster Zap is a nice uncharted territory for an artifact. 2 decent kickers. And then this Rift, which the nice thing about this Rift is that somebody might not be able to play it right away, which means that that's one card that you probably won't have played immediately after you've gotten rid of your last card, or you're about to get rid of your last card. So remember, you get into one, it's like a 5 or 6 player game. You get into one encounter with a lot of allies, you can get rid of all these cards pretty much in one fell swoop. All right, next to treasure is Profiteer. So power to arm. Anytime another player loses an encounter, you may give this player a card from the sheet, which they add to their hand. Anytime another player revealed one of your Profiteer encounter cards and won the encounter, choose to either gain 3 rewards or add the card to your hand instead of it being discarded. So, boom, here we have an attack 42. And then opposed by Negotiate. But if you lose the encounter, after revealing this card, your ships are removed from the game rather than being captured or sent to the warp. So, you should be able to win with a 42. And if you can't win, there should be repercussions. And there are. Attack 32. If you lose the encounter after revealing this card, you must discard your hand. Yeah, and I don't, as you can see, there isn't consistency about where that penalty is. This isn't, I probably would put that down here. I don't know, we're playing around with where that should be, but that's the same sort of thing. If you can't win with a 32, then you have to discard your hand. The 22, if you lose here, you have to vacate a home colony. Then we have a morph, and it's a special morph. So there haven't been any special morphs until now. So we have morph insurgency, coppers your opponent's card. If that card is an attack, add 2 for each home colony you have. So a little bonus there. Honor the Fallen. If that card is an attack, add 1 for each ship you have in the warp. And again, everyone who is a Cosmic Encounter super fan and has been designing their own cards has been thinking about special morphs. And so some of these, again, Bill Martinson has been a pioneer in the special cards, many of which have made it into the game and many of which haven't. So when I see a good idea that I think should be in the game, I want to add it into the game. And then Exploited Strength, if the card is in attack, add 1 for each card in your opponent's hand. So these are all pretty good cards. And so if somebody ends up using one, yeah, you can either get it as the Profiteer, profit yourself, or just get rewards, normal. And then we've got 2 more. First of all, we have the Librarian. So they are the power of codices. So whenever any other player places ships on the hyperspace gate when pointed at a planet in your system, you may use this power to give each of those players one of the tome encounter cards on this sheet, which they add to their hand. So if that player already has a tome in their hand, they may announce so, in which case you may charge, that should be charged. You should charge them a late fee by forcing them to discard a random card from their hand. If you ever play a tome encounter card, you will lose, and that should be the encounter, but you gain the advantage listed on it instead of your opponent. Whenever a tome is revealed in an encounter, add it to the sheet instead of discarding it. So these tomes, they're encounter cards. So opposed by anything, you lose, and then your opponent has 1 minute to search the cosmic deck for any one card to add to their hand. So these you definitely don't want to have. And when you have them, you don't want to have to play them because, they're encounter cards, so you may eventually have to play them. So this is the Cosmodex. So search the deck for any card. I thought that was funny. So these are all going to be, kind of inside jokes. So that's the first one. Our second one is the Necronomicon. So you lose, and then your opponent chooses any one of your home colonies, send all of your ships there to the warp. So that tracks for the Necronomicon. Here we have the Song of Cryo and Inferno. And if you don't know what that's a reference to, then turn in your geek card. So your opponent may either discard a card and then draw a card, or gain a random flare from the unused flare deck. So, and again, discard a card, draw a card is something similar to what Cryo does, and then gain an unused flare is a nice nod to Inferno. So Inferno is the flare alien. And so there you have the Arts of War. And there you have the warrior on the cover of that one. Your opponent gains a foreign colony in your home system. So that could potentially be 2 foreign colonies that player is gaining in one. Because if you're the defense and you have to play this, you're going to lose. So they'll get that encounter. And then they're going to gain another one. So, yeah, that's... and then we have 100 Eons of Solitude. So again, that's a sort of tongue-in-cheek reference. The extra penalty here after losing, of course, is you reduce all of your foreign colonies to 1 ship, sending your excess ships to the warp. So yes, Solitude for you there. The Cosmic Iliad, so that is a nice companion to the Cosmic Odyssey. Opposed by anything you lose, and you discard your hand to send 1 of your ships to the warp for each card you discarded. That is brutal. And then our last one, which just fell through the table, but we brought it back, and it's the Moocher's Guide to the Universe. So the Moocher likes to hitchhike, remember, or they yell shotgun and they jump in. So here you must give your hand to your opponent. So those are those. I love the Librarian. I love these tomes. And so, yeah, I would have loved to have seen these added in. Just such a fun idea. And then our last deck alien is the Devour. And this one has cards for multiple decks. So at the start of your turn, shuffle all applicable Devour cards into the top half of their respective decks. So that's going to be a big deal here in a second. So when one is drawn by any player, use this power to consume whatever the card indicates. And consumed components are placed on the sheet and are considered removed from the game. Afterward, place the Devour card on this sheet. So it's going to be revealed. You'll draw it. It gets triggered. It goes on the sheet. And at the start of your turn as Devour, you're going to put that card back in that deck. And it's going to go in the top half, which means you're more likely to encounter it. So as a main player or ally in encounter, you may add 1 to your side's total for each devoured component on this sheet. So that's what you got going on here. So here we've got Devour. So this is a Destiny card, and it's going to be shuffled into the Destiny deck. So when this card is drawn, the Devourer must devour any 1 ship of the player who drew it. If the Devourer draws this card, devour 2 ships belonging to any player. In either case, redraw Destiny. So yeah, you're gonna have a ship devoured. It's out of the game, and it's making Devourer stronger. So now we've got a Devour card in the Cosmic deck, and there's going to be a couple of those. So let's look at this one here. So as soon as you draw it, reveal this card immediately. When this card is revealed, the Devourer must devour 2 cards at random from the hand of the player who drew it. And if the Devourer reveals it, they are going to devour 3 cards at random from any other player's hand. And that's going to be the same for all of these Cosmic deck Devour cards are going to be devouring cards from hand. Here we got a reward deck one. So you must devour a planet in the system of the player who revealed it. Ships on the planet return to other colonies. And then if it's the Devourer, they can devour anybody's planet. And so you've got a couple of those. Here's one for the tech deck. The Devourer must devour any 2 tech cards, whether they're completed or not. Ships return to colonies. We've got one for the Hazard deck. When this card is drawn, the Devourer must devour 2 cards from any deck. Then draw again. And so you might be devouring some cards to make it get to these other cards more quickly. So there you have it. So there are 8 of these Devour cards. So you could go a while before any show up. Or one could show up right away. But then eventually all the ones that have shown up are going to show up again because they're going to be shuffled back into those decks. So there you have it. And this is another one. Again, with the strict card counts, we could play around with adding a couple more. We also toyed with the idea of affecting other decks, but like for instance, you're not really going to go through the Moon deck of cards. You're not going to go through the the Lux card deck. There really aren't any other good decks to go through So that's why we kind of stuck to that. But and this was actually an idea from Kevin Wilson. He wanted to have an alien that devoured things. And so we kicked around a few ideas, and then this is what I ended up with. And so I love the idea, and I was definitely, motivated to make it work. So there you have it. These are the deck aliens. This is the first batch. There were a lot more aliens that we were playtesting, and I will cover more of those in a future video. So let me know what you think of this concept, and of course, I look forward to what other kinds of crazy deck aliens other players come up with. I love this idea. More cards. Everyone is like, "Oh, we want more cards," but do we just add more cards to the cosmic deck? Do we add them to the reward deck? It's already pretty full. And I thought, here's an interesting idea, a nice way to get some more cards into the game, but it's at a kind of a different rate, and they have their own set of rules. So that's it for this one, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.